session. Nigeria adventure. 11 months. New administration, new government. Abetan so who ni o ma say? Ekoye. O endure. And now o yede. Dani na our comment section ase efa mine. Na eye Felix Ofosu kwache, sorry, Ofosu kwache. Okopiem ewo channel 1 na wode 11 months review ego apawaswa egosia. Eyasemo eni eyo arewo Ghana. Hey, ebeyi. Ebusia semeka nsem na wan hwe a da committee wan ya bebro. Nti wo dia ka me ho ne enkotie review nsem na odi tuja na wonso adwenkyira a wo fa sansem we no aja na e comment section ase ede amai
can be said for the budget deficit, which is a straightforward calculation.
But they say that
of
you are not,
the difference between your revenue.
You are not spending. You are not spending at all.
It is not true.
That is why we are seeing the point. And that the day you start spending,
it is not true.
We're going to go down.
We are spending, but we are being fiscally prudent. When you read the budget again, the finance minister indicated that he had some shortfall in revenue, that he had corresponding cuts in expenditure, so he kept within the limits that he has set for himself. Under the MPP, when there was a drop in revenue, they ballooned expenditure. So the whole increase. Now, to curb that, you need to pinch yourself and stay within budgetary limits and spend in the areas that matter. Okay. It is not true that we are not. So let me show you that why I say we are spending. So what are the key points of expenditure in Ghana? What are the key items that government spends money on?
Construction, salaries.
I beg your pardon, the big one is salaries. In fact, if you look into the budget of 2026 as presented by the budget finance minister, 90.5 billion Ghana cedis will be spent on public sector salaries. If you look at the budget that he read in 2025 and its implementation, look at the allocations made to education, allocations made to the District Assembly's Common Fund, allocations made to the NHIS. You speak to the NHIS people, they will tell you that for the first time they have money sitting in their accounts, but it is rather the health service providers who are lagging behind in terms of the presentation of claims for payment to be made. In the past, we had a situation where they had capped the NHIS, and even the letter that was due was not being released. So if you speak to Dr. Bampo, he will tell you that he has money in his accounts waiting for service providers to come and claim. If you go to the District Assembly's Common Fund, and I always say this because I have practical knowledge of it, I am an official member of the AAK District Assembly. So I know that last year, 2024, the total amount of money that came by way of Common Fund was 298,000 Ghana cedis. This year, by the second quarter, the same assembly had received from this government 6.5 million Ghana cedis. So because of that, they are able to do projects, at least 8 of them, that we are well on course.
Where are you?
Road has been a long-standing bottleneck. For many, many years, it has become something of a death trap. Every now and then, there is some digging or some construction that is supposed to be going on, but never gets completed. President Mama has indicated that those works will be continued. However, it has become necessary because of the constraints on that route and the dangers that it poses and the number of lives that are being lost on a daily basis. It has become necessary to open another corridor, which is shorter. It is less than 200 kilometers, 197 kilometers. But this will be a modern expressway that will have facilities that will aid rapid movements between Accra and Kumasi, with various other facilities along the stretch. And every country that has developed has done so by creating expansive infrastructure that facilitates the movements of goods, services, and people, so that you can have rapid economic development. And that is precisely what has guided the decision to open this new corridor and construct this new expressway.
But why not finish the existing road?
First of all, Umaru, you cannot say that you will finish everything before you start something new.
No, I mean, so the Suhum one, the main road.
Yeah, but you can see that what is going, indeed.
Yeah, so why don't you just focus on finishing that one? Why do you have to create an entirely new road?
The evidence shows that we are continuing the work on the Accra Kumasi road. Indeed, the Ofanko to Isahum road.
Yes, they are doing the asphalt.
Absolutely, because we gave 800 million Ghana cedis to the contractor sometime this year. The MPP said they had sourced money from external sources to construct that road, and yet were unable to mobilize all the resources required to pay the contractor. When we came to power, one of the problems that emerged immediately was that the contractor has stopped work and an unbearable level of traffic buildup was recorded on a daily basis. This was exacerbated when the rains began, and it was a terrible sight to behold anytime that vehicles plied the road. So it was absolutely imperative to do something quickly to free up the road. And indeed, $70 million, equivalent to over 800 million Ghana cedis, was paid to the contractor, and that is the reason why you see that they are asphalting significant portions and our traffic is flowing.
So if we're finishing that,
then there are bypasses which are also being done.
Yes.
But even when all those are done, it will not be enough to address the problem, the bottleneck on that road. And there's a need for this expressway that is being done. There are several foundation that was laid would account for what we are doing. First of all, what foundation did they lay? So you need to look at where we were when we were in power. After all the cries about, or the hoopla, the hue and cry about gold for oil, the price at the pump was higher than what we have today. Yeah,
but they were starting. They were not
starting. What they had been in power for 8 years.
They introduced
no,
it last
Umaru, they had been in power for 8 years.
Yes.
At least we had heard about gold for oil for about 2 years before they left power. But what was the outcome? The outcome was that when we went to the pump, at a point, diesel was selling at 23 cedis at the pump, and petrol was around 19 cedis or so. That is the results that the NPP achieved. By the time we came to power, it was between 14 to 15 cedis a gallon at the pump. And later, I beg your pardon, at the pump. Now, that is not the situation. The city, there is talk about some gold accumulation that Baumia is supposed to have initiated. There's the very same person who says he knew nothing about MPP economic management, says that he was responsible for the gold accumulation policy. Again, the contradiction there perhaps contributed to the huge defeat.
But so the question
but I was coming to the point.
What did NDC
so I'm coming.
do?
The point is that, first of all, the key factor that underlies economic development or economic performance is fiscal discipline. Our history shows that fiscal indiscipline has led to cyclical economic crisis. By 2021, it had become clear that there was a huge hole in our finances. The NPP had achieved a budget deficit of in excess of 15% at the end of 2020, which had created a huge hole, which then led to the accumulation of more debts, which led to debt unsustainability, which led to debt defaults, which then impacted our currency and led to hardships. So to make progress, we needed to reverse these things. So the first thing you look at is discipline, staying within your means. How do you do that? So you have revenue, which you match against expenditure. You are allowed a certain percentage by which you overspend. And when you set that target, you must keep within it. The NPP programmed that we were going to do what we call a primary balance. In other words, if you look at our revenue and expenditure, and you took out the fact that we had to service our debts, they said we were going to achieve a surplus of 0.5%. When they left office, it went around 3.5% or so. They did not meet that target. We set a target.
Is it taking too much time?
No, but you need a forensic audit means that you have to delve deeper.
It's 1 year.
No, it's not. It's been only a few months. Indeed.
No, I mean, since you took office.
Yes, but you need to allow a reasonable amount of time for that to happen, because the process has to be thorough. You have to find out everything. If somebody presents an invoice, you should be able to go behind the invoice and find out exactly what has happened, where the money has gone to, and who has done what. So once that is completed, then we'll be in a position to take other decisions. But what is clear is that we cannot commit $1 billion of public funds to build the cathedral, and the president has made that quite clear. And so once the report comes in, government position will be clearly stated. But what I can assure is that public funds are not going to be used to support $1 billion cathedral. The president has made that very clear.